Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome back to the cityCURRENT Show, where we bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we're honored to have Gretchen Villegas, a dynamic global development executive and a passionate advocate for social impact. Gretchen has dedicated her career to fostering partnerships that drive sustainable changes across communities, governments, the private sector, and nonprofit organizations. And with her extensive experience, including her time as a Peace Corps volunteer in Suriname, South America, Gretchen is on a mission to align values and create triple win strategies that benefit people, planet, and profit, which we'll go into just in a little bit. So Gretchen, thank you so much for joining us.
Andrew, thank you. Thank you for having me with you today.
Of course, we're excited to learn more. First, start off with what initially drew you into the field of global social impact.
So when I was in my undergraduate degree, they couldn't keep me on campus. I was literally, out of 4 years, I was abroad for 3.5 years. And I was lucky because where I went for my undergraduate degree in international studies, there were many study abroad programs. So you found me in the Yucatan in Mexico on the peninsula. You found me in London. You found me in Spain. You found me in Washington, D.C. And the great part about it was that I was studying while I was learning and doing. And I think that's what brought to me that I wanted to see the world, right? And I knew that there were different cultures. And I think that's what brought to me the fact that after I graduated, I didn't want to stop. And so I kept looking for more and more opportunities. And that's when the Peace Corps came along right after I graduated from my bachelor's degree.
It's really cool because I can relate to you in a sense that when I was in 4th grade, we had like the Scholastic book fairs. The world religions book to purchase. My parents were going, okay, that's a little strange. Like, don't you want something like a Judy Blume book or something? But for me, it was a way to recognize, empathize, and learn about all of the cultures around us and how creative and historic these global entities are across the world and how different cultures react and learn from each other. So for you to be able to experience that at a young age and then bring those experiences throughout now into the private sector, let's go back a little bit to your time in Suriname. How did that experience shape your approach to social impact?
It had a huge impact on me, for sure. I had an experience that I would say, even though it was in, the very late 90s, it was more like what JFK put together, right, in the mid 60s. It was in a village along the Amazon in Suriname. So it had no running water, no electricity. It was a village of 600 people who had been slaves, right? They were brought over from West Africa, Ghana and Togo. And when the slaves were set free, they went into the bush, right? So they ran into the bush and created their own tribes. And so I was actually I learned a tribal language, which was all tonal. The children taught me. And I had to learn the language. So the children taught me the language so that I could actually speak to the people who were there. There was a Dutch church there that was kind of the center, right, of all the kind of project work and different activities within the community. And so once I was able to learn the language, I kind of gained the trust the trust was important within the community as well, then I was able to kind of learn what the elders and what the women really wanted to work on in terms of the village. And what they wanted to look for was, number one, clean water. The only clean water they had, they had to walk at least a mile with, imagine, buckets on their heads, right? And it was water from a spring. And it was clean water, right? But that was the only place they could get clean water. So many times they were getting water out of the river. And then, of course, people were using the river for different things like washing dishes, like going to the bathroom and whatnot. And so everything is coming down the river and people are getting sick, of course. So we were able to work together to write a project proposal to get funding from the Dutch government. And they were able to get the supplies they needed. And the village actually put in piping so that they could pipe in water. So that was one of the things I was able to work on. And there were a few other projects, but what I learned there was the most interesting. And you asked, how did it kind of shape me as a global development person going forward, like my career? It was that a global development kind of partner and career is not about bringing in the right answer. It's not about bringing people an asset or a thing or telling them what to do. It's about listening to what their needs are and facilitating a process of how do you figure out where to bring the education, the skill, the resource that's needed to fill the gap. And that is my biggest takeaway. And that was when I actually understood what role I could actually play in global development.
I think that's a great lesson for those working here in the United States as well. I mean, even just in your workplace and your career, because many of the times we come and think that we have the token answers, but we're in a new environment and we need to remember that we need to learn and we need to build those relationships like you did, learning an entirely new language so you can build the trust as an outsider to say, I'm here to support you. I'm here to listen and then provide some ideas, some resources to then provide solutions. And so a lot of that goes into also finding your purpose to then bring about change. So how do you define the concept of finding your purpose in the context of social impact? And then how did you find yours?
Right. So my purpose, I understood when I left the Peace Corps, I understood that I wanted myself to be a vehicle, right? My purpose was to be a vehicle for those in need, right? Those who needed basic services. They didn't have access to education. They didn't have access to enough nutritious or healthy food, right, for a full year. They didn't have access to clean water. They didn't have access to housing. They didn't have access to, well, if we talk about education, to trades, right, and higher level schooling. Any of that, right? Empowerment, women who are empowered with social enterprises and whatnot. I wanted to be a vehicle for anyone within the world who didn't have that access. And I wanted to be able to bring together the resources so that that would be available, right? And so what I did after Peace Corps was I put myself into an intercultural management program at the School for International Training. And that was a program that you could only enter if you had already been working. So I had 2 years in Peace Corps. We had other professionals from 30 some other countries that had been working already, right? So we all came from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different work environments. And what they taught us how to do, they taught us how to think differently, how to ask questions, how not to assume, how to become vehicles of change, of allowing impact to happen, right? Without coming in the room and saying, we're going to create impact and this is how it's going to happen. It's about a process. It's about asking the right questions, and it's about guiding a process. It's not about walking in a room and saying, this is how it's going to happen, right? Social impact is not about knowing exactly how to do it and how you're going to get it done. No, it's about working with those in need and developing out the opportunity to get there. And that's when I realized anything around global development, whether you're writing a proposal to ask for donor funding, right? Or whether you're sitting and working with that Peace Corps group, right? Coming up with an idea and going to the Dutch embassy. What you're doing is you're starting with the people who it benefits. You're not starting with the people back home with the money. You're starting with who it benefits. And you're not starting with the money. You're starting with what you need it for, and then you're working backwards. And you're not looking at one donor. You're looking at a puzzle and how you're putting all the different pieces together, right? And so basically, you are a vehicle that puts together all these different pieces.
I love it, because my life motto is we will be known by the problems we solve. And so when you come into a problem-solving mindset, you not only empathize with others, but you don't come in the door with answers. You come in the door with listening ears and a willingness to get your hands dirty and to listen, collaborate, bring about change. And you talk a lot about this triple win strategy between people, profit. Why is that critical for sustainable global social impact?
Yep, exactly. Thank you for asking me that. There's a few layers to it. Okay, so here's layer one. And this, I'm telling you, has come from years of mistakes, learning, getting it right every once in a while, and then some more mistakes. So in every single opportunity, right, to solve that puzzle, right, to ask those questions like you were talking about, you have a nonprofit saying, I have funding, I have technical assistance where I can teach you something, right? I can bring you an asset. I can give you technical assistance to help you on the job, right? And I can give you money to go to school and whatnot, okay? That's a nonprofit, global nonprofit, local nonprofit. Then I have corporations. I have corporations that say, I have some issues in my supply chain, and I have some corporate social responsibility money I want to do good with, right? Because I believe in doing good as well. So whether you're doing it to fill the gap in your supply chain, or you're doing it out of CSR responsibility, they're going to add money to the pot of money that you're looking at for that proposal. In every single project I had, Andrew, I brought corporate along the way. Local private sector, global private sector, they are always willing to step up if you ask, and you ask the right way, okay? So there is none of this, they're not willing. They are, if you pitch it the right way and you bring the parties together the right way. Okay, so that's number two. The third, right, of this triple win is the government in the country is key, because you are a guest, right? And sometimes we're even a guest in our own country because you're not in your own state. They have the policies, they have the rules, they have the protocols in order to enhance or enforce. And so all three of those should always be coming together. And when they come together, that synergy brings a sustainable result. Absolutely. And then as you are looking at your metrics, right, what you're doing, people, the social aspect has to be the centerpiece. The social aspect of doing no harm, of making sure people's lives are better because of what you're doing. The planet. We know right now, after COP28, after all the conversation in Davos, right? our carbon emissions cannot keep going up, right? We can't keep harming the earth. We can't, because our future generations depend on it and the people depend on it, right? So we need solutions that make sense. Many times the solutions come from the private sector, and the nonprofits can make it easier to reach people. We can create ways that are cost effective to reach people in different ways, right? And the governments can allow the requirements to make them available in the right way, right? So that's where you bring the three in again. And profit. Here's where it gets tricky. But here's something we've all learned, and we just have to accept. You must create wealth in vulnerable places. If you don't create wealth, I don't care where you are. I don't care if you are in the deep south of the United States, where we need to build wealth, and we're in some of those deep south, Andrew. The Delta of Arkansas needs wealth. That's why Renmark International, that is why Heifer International work here, right? Alabama, same thing. Georgia, I mean, many of our states, right? But you need to build some wealth, right? And private sector figured that out a while ago. And I think if we build wealth in some of these communities, but we also understand it's okay for some of our nonprofits to turn into social enterprises. It's okay for some of our for-profits to make some revenue that they can bring back in to those vulnerable communities. When we know that's okay, and some of us understand that already, that's when everybody is going to start surfacing and doing well. So it is about people. It is about planet. And once we can all see wealth grow in profit from investing any money, whether it comes from corporate, nonprofit, right? Or comes from local or global, we'll all be in a better place.
Well said. And I love that you encourage and really talk about breaking down those silos, because collective impact is key, and having the different sectors from government, private, nonprofit are vital for achieving that meaningful change. So to recognize that, practice what you preach, and help others do that is essential and paramount. Talk about how businesses, nonprofits, the entire global exchange can collaborate with you and what they can work with you on.
One thing that is important to me is that those partnerships happen, because that is, I believe that's true sustainability. And the reason I believe it is because I've seen it, right? And unfortunately, I've seen projects that many millions of dollars have been invested in, right? From all different funders, right? And has broken down, and the money has, in some sense, been wasted, right? It's been for the here and now and not long term. We don't have money to waste anymore. Money is scarce. And so what I can say is, whether you are a nonprofit and you are wanting to do more collaborative work with governments or the for-profit sector, I can absolutely help you with that. Whether you are a for-profit and you want to do more work with a nonprofit sector who's working closely with governments, I can also help you with that. So what I really pride myself on, lessons learned, okay, over my 27 some years now, is that I understand how to approach communities and have productive conversations. And I understand how nonprofits can approach for-profits and how for-profits can approach nonprofits, and also not only have productive conversations, but come up with agreements that work for each other. And that is something we need to do more of, right?
Absolutely. There's such a need for collaboration. And just as Geographically, there's a bridge that separates us between the
I
states
know.
we're in. It's so funny talking about that before this conversation. That's literally what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
bridging that gap and you're saying, I have the expertise, I have the knowledge base. I'm
Yeah.
an industry leader in providing this collaboration and collaborative mindset for collective impact. It's just a no-brainer. And social impact is mandatory now. And so what are you doing as your CSR responsibilities in the for-profit sector, and how are you nonprofit sector, faith communities, what are you doing to step up and collaborate with these for-profit companies and collaborate with the government as well? So definitely reach out to Gretchen if that's something that you are struggling with or really want to amp up. Finally, for our listeners who might be seeking their own path in social impact, what advice would you offer to them as they begin their journey?
Oh, I would say seek out an opportunity to learn. Seek out an opportunity. Um, I'll tell you, I have been learning so much over the last few months. It's just been amazing. There are so many kind of groups out there that you can learn from. I've become part of the Impact Table. It's a group for women at all levels in their career who work in social impact. It can be nonprofit or for-profit. What I love about it, Andrew, is it's bringing nonprofit and for-profit together, saying social impact, it can come from any side, right?
Yes.
Great group of women who are networking and sharing stories. I think that the Peace Corps had scaled back somewhat, but now it's coming forward again. I think it's a great opportunity. There are many mission trips that are lining up to go out. If you are part of a church community, and even if you're not, a lot of the universities are doing this. In fact, my daughter is getting ready to go to Vanuatu. Gonna have to look that one up on the map. Andrew, it's right next to Fiji. Oh my gosh, she's so excited to go.
Oh, cool.
And I just marvel, watching her because I remember, myself going. Now, this isn't 2 years, it's 3 weeks, but she's so excited to be absolutely immersed in the culture. And, to have that experience is something you can't replace. And I think if you are thinking about, a global development opportunity, it definitely is worth getting involved in a group or getting involved in actually going abroad in some capacity because it opens your eyes. It really does. It's completely worth it. And if you want ideas, reach out. Absolutely. I have a website, with my contact information, reach out. Andrew, I'm sure you have ideas as well. So please don't be a stranger.
Absolutely. So where can people reach out to you? Give us your best place, your website, where we can go to reach out, learn more about you, and connect.
Yep. So my website is GretchenVillegas.net. So it's Gretchen Villegas, Villegas. So that's all one word, .net, N-E-T. And you will find all my contact information there, my phone number, my email, and really just reach out. I always love to talk about experiences, love to mentor people, give you ideas, and definitely open to opportunities to work with people now as well. So.
Awesome. Well, Gretchen Villegas, you are a social impact leader. You are a global change maker. Your dedication to fostering sustainable change through those strategic partnerships and values alignment is both inspiring and instructive for anyone looking to make a difference. Thank you so much for powering the good in our community and around the globe and for coming on our show.
Well, Andrew, thank you. And thank you for everything that you do on cityCURRENT as well.